Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Talking City podcast with myself, Alex James, and City writer Tyrone Marshall. We will get stuck in just a moment, but a quick word from our sponsors, NordVPN. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Talking City. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the podcast episode description box. Just for you there, Ty.
Something to watch on Fridays and all that. It's like you've had a stroke or something in between description and box every time. I'm like, is he okay? Is he okay?
Just rounding off the sponsorship bit. Give it a bit of a full stop.
NordVPN. Enjoy it.
I'll get the feedback. I'll have to get the feedback off your other half, actually, because that's the feedback that matters, isn't it? With your
yeah, I mean, debatable feedback, criticism. It's hard to know at times, isn't it?
We are still in the international break, which still feels like it's been going on forever. But we can discuss Erling Haaland for a change, and another 2 goals and a spot in the World Cup. And this is the start of his run to forget Ballon Doku. This is the start of the run to Haaland to the Ballon d'Or, isn't it? When he guides City to the title and Norway to the World Cup in 2026.
Do you know what? I was just thinking about that because I was thinking about writing a piece about it today. I'd forgotten he finished second in 2023. To be honest, I didn't recall it finished that high up. But it makes perfect sense because he scored obviously a lot of goals that took City to the treble. Although I guess in that scene he didn't score the goals that mattered, did he? If you know what I mean. Like they kind of signed him to win the Champions League, but then he didn't score in the final.
Yeah.
But, he clearly had a phenomenal season and finished second. But I don't know, maybe this is the best chance he'll ever get to win it. When you think, like we were talking on WhatsApp last night, weren't we? Because I'd written a piece on Norway qualifying and like Haaland's role in it and what it means with Gianluigi Donnarumma, who's esteemed pundit now in the Premier League and obviously knows the Haaland family well. So go and read that, anyone that hasn't read it yet. But I had to edit it last night with the stats after the Italy game. And we were kind of talking like what Norway could achieve. And Fjortov said in it, like, Haaland could easily win the Golden Boot. I mean, they could play Cape Verde in the first game and he gets a hat-trick.
He could easily score 8 goals in there.
He could score 8 goals in the group game stage.
And Norway could go out.
Yeah, potentially.
And he'd still win the Golden Boot.
If they got to the quarterfinals maybe and he won the Golden Boot or even the last 16 and City win the Champions League or the Premier League, I don't know, it feels like it's got a great chance. Given he's got 30 goals already, given he got 16 in 8 in qualifying, like that is obscene. The next high scorer in Europe's got 8. And, it is hard to know. You look at, I think Harry Kane was asked it, wasn't he, before Albania, and he said, like, I could score 100 goals this season, but if I don't win the World Cup or the Champions League, I'm not going to win the Ballon d'Or. And he said it's the same for Haaland. Haaland could score 100 goals this season the way he's going. And to be fair, Kane's numbers are almost identical to Haaland.
He scored in
this season
7 of the 8 games, I think, for England. Kane.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think he's ended up on 8 goals. And I think Haaland's got something like 30. There's only, in terms of goals and assists, there's only 1 or 2 between them this season. You'd probably say Kane has more easier games, I guess, in Germany. But the numbers are incredible. But, with the Ballon d'Or, a lot's going to depend on what happens in the World Cup, isn't it? But
yeah, I mean, it's not an individual, well, it is an individual trophy, but you don't ordinarily win them. I'm not sure if anyone's ever really won the Ballon d'Or in recent times without either winning the Champions League.
Yeah.
Certainly without winning a league title, but even that.
And in a World
Cup,
you need to do something in the World Cup, don't you? Look at probably the reason Haaland didn't win it in 2023 was because Messi won the World Cup. So what happens in the World Cup is going to be massive. So, your country needs to do well. So then it's probably between Haaland, Kane, Mbappe and Troy Parrott, maybe.
Well,
what a moment that was. International football at its greatest.
Unbelievable celebration.
Yeah, it was wild, wasn't it?
I think Norway could do all right in the World Cup. You were mocking the suggestion that they could win the World Cup. I'm not suggesting they might win the World Cup, but I think they're 150 to 1.
You know that because you did say they could win the World Cup. Yeah. I'll get the WhatsApp text.
I did say they could win the World Cup.
We'll put them on screen and we'll prove it.
And when they do win the World Cup, this will be the moment that goes down in podcast history. But
I mean, they've got the goals to do it, haven't they?
Haaland could easily score in every game in a World Cup. Yeah. And with Ødegaard and Oscar Bob and whoever else they've got quite a decent attacking lineup. They've got
Yeah.
Strand Larsen as well, haven't they?
So they got Sorloth. I mean, Strand
Sorloth,
Larsen's like third choice striker. Came off the bench and scored.
It's not inconceivable that they could perform really well in a way that, like, I'm trying to think of a World Cup comparison, but in a way that like Denmark did in the Euros, or someone similar to that, who was in the semi-finals of the last World Cup. I can't remember now, but
Morocco.
Yes, there you go. So you would suggest Norway would beat Morocco.
Yeah.
And nobody will want to play Norway.
No, purely because of those attackers. And I mean, they won 4-1 in Italy on Sunday night without Odegaard. Like, Odegaard's not been fit for this camp. And when you throw in, I mean, a midfield of Odegaard and Sander Berge, who's, you know, a Premier League player, Sorloth and Haaland up front, Noosa on the wing seems like a really good player. I mean, Oscar Bob's like a substitute for them. Strand Larsen's a sub. Speaking to Fjortoft, he kind of questioned the defence, and I don't think there's many names particularly in the defence, but certainly with that attacking talent, you'd say, you know, spoiler alert, I don't think they're going to win it. But they could certainly go far. And like you say, it's going to be an interesting tournament because of the conditions. And, you know, it's not going to be conditions Norwegians are going to love, but also it's probably going to change the style of football. And maybe a team like that who are reasonably direct, when you've got Haaland and Sorloth up front, like, why wouldn't you go direct? Like, I don't know, maybe that'll kind of play into their hands in a way, that they can kind of conserve energy, just go direct, set up in like a solid 4-4-2, and maybe they've got a chance. I mean, you look at the results in qualifying, to beat Italy 3-0 at home and 4-1 away is spectacular. Yeah, and
it's not the greatest Italy side we've ever seen, is it? And they haven't even been in the last 2 World Cups, but they have won a European Championship in that time. And from a City perspective, Haaland and Oscar Bob, that's such a seismic moment for them. I think Haaland's spoken about it a couple of times, that this is something he's wanted to do, and he wanted to lead his country into a World Cup, and Norway even qualifying for the World Cup would be like England or whoever, Argentina or whoever, winning the World Cup. And he's done that now, and you just feel like if it's even possible, that might kick him on.
I'm not sure it is possible.
It might kick him on another 5 or 10% to be like, right, this is the year now. Look what I've done here with Norway. Let's go back to City where we've got 18 games in 2 months or whatever it is coming up, and away we go.
Yeah, well, like you say, it is, and it's a massive thing for him. You look at I think he posted on Snapchat last night with like "We did it" caption and his big smiley face, and you know, it is going to mean a hell of a lot to him. I mean, it would have been a travesty if he'd never played in a major international tournament or played in a World Cup. But, you know, Fjortoft said that, and he was like, well, people like Ryan Giggs, George Best, you know, world-class footballers never played in a World Cup. And it's kind of sometimes the way it falls. If you're from a smaller nation, you might not play in one. So it would have been a travesty. There was a fair bit of pressure on him, I would say, because, you know, Haaland's 25, Odegaard's got to be a similar age now, I'd say.
I would have said, I don't know.
A year or two older.
25, 26, maybe.
So it's not like they're kids. They've been around. This Norwegian generation has been around for a while. Like I would say, Sorloth as well is a similar age to them, if not older. So they've been around for a while, and they've made a mess of qualification. Like, they didn't even reach the last Euros.
No, they got beaten out by Scotland.
They got beaten out by Scotland. Yeah, I think they drew at home and lost away to Scotland, I think. I can't say for certain. But they'd made a mess of the last 2, at least, qualification campaigns. And certainly the Euros, when it's harder to miss out on the Euros than get in these days. It's even letting countries like Wales in. You know, to miss out on that.
Hugely unnecessary.
It's for a team of Norway's talents, even if it is all in attack, to have not made those Euros would have felt like, and especially to miss out to Scotland, would have felt like a major disappointment and letdown. So I think there's a lot of pressure on it. And there was pressure on it when they beat Italy 3-0 in the first game, because then it's like, well, this is the moment now. And I think, you know, they had a pretty nervy win in Estonia, I think. I think they won 1-0 in Estonia after that. But then since then, they've just thrashed everyone.
The goals,
just absolutely thrashed everyone.
I think you've spoken to Pep Guardiola about this, but is there an element here of, I mean, this is going to be some year for Haaland. Whatever happens, he's had a Club World Cup, a couple of weeks off, a Premier League season. City look a decent bet. I mean, they're already in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. You'd expect them to win 2-3 games in the FA Cup as a minimum. They already look like a decent bet to finish top 8 in the Champions League, which I know saves them a playoff round, but then obviously gives them a knockout game, and who knows how many extra games in the Champions League, then a World Cup with more teams in it than ever before. Is there a risk of, I don't know if Haaland suffers from fatigue. I can't imagine him ever waking up tired somehow, but is there a risk here that whether this season or early next season, everything catches up with him, and that kind of mental pressure, I guess, of not carrying Norway, but certainly being the figurehead for Norway. Everyone's going to want a piece of Haaland in America next year. He's probably going to get wheeled out for God knows how many press conferences with his national team, and he's part of the City leadership group. Like, that's a lot. It's a lot to take. And I know he's an experienced player, but he's still only 25, and he won't have done anything like this before.
No, but it doesn't look like that side of things really phases him. And physically, he does, like, touch wood, looks indestructible, really, at the moment. It's easy to forget now, but when he came from Dortmund, he did come as, borderline injury prone.
Yeah, that definitely was.
Certainly the last season at Dortmund, like a lot of muscle issues and things like that. We've barely ever seen it at City. Like, his fitness record's incredible. I think he's played 20 games now this season. 20 or 21. I can't remember when I looked at the stat. But I was working it out the other day that I think if he goes, they go to the World Cup, they reach the knockout rounds, I think he's going to play more than 70 games this season. I mean, I would guess that if City win the Carabao Cup, he's unlikely to play. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
He's on the bench in the final. Maybe he's involved in the semis. But then it would feel kind of like you almost just say, don't get involved in that competition. Given that he started every Premier League game. But you're right, I asked Guardiola about, like, he's going to reach the World Cup. Because you've seen Guardiola rest and rotate almost everyone else in that team, except for Haaland.
Yeah, and he doesn't even take Haaland off on 60 minutes.
Barely takes him off, yeah.
He tends to come off on 88 minutes.
And he kind of said, he did that classic Guardiola thing when he was like, I'm sorry for my colleague Stally Solbakken, and he said, maybe if we win the Premier League with 10 games to spare, I'll rest him. Which, like, they're not going to do, are they? And if the Premier League goes to the wire, Haaland probably starts 38 Premier League games this season.
Yeah, if he's fit, he starts every Premier League game, doesn't he?
Maybe doesn't start or play in Bodo Glimt, but it's in Norway. Will he want to be involved in that? Galatasaray at home, if they're through, maybe doesn't play in that. FA Cup, maybe he's on the bench in some of those games.
Yeah, maybe as depends who they draw and stuff.
But he's so at this stage of the season, he's played 90 minutes, more than 90 minutes more than the second most used City player. Like, he's already played an extra game than everyone else in that City squad in terms of minutes. And to your point, so he's so City have played 17 games, haven't they? Of which 2 have been the Carabao Cup. Haaland started the other 15, and his average minutes in those is 86.
Yeah, which
shows you that he's never taken off. You think back to the Burnley game, like, he scored those 2 goals at the end of the Burnley game. They were 3-1 up. Like, there's an argument to say, what's he even still doing on the pitch? But that is what we see, isn't it? He plays till the end pretty much all the time, and those stats kind of sum it up. And that gap between him being the most used player and the second most used probably only going to grow, because there's probably not a bigger drop-off anywhere else in the squad.
Second?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Good knowledge. But there's probably not a bigger drop-off.
I do read your pieces sometimes, you see.
yeah, well, you sob them. Not through choice, through work. There's probably not a bigger drop-off anywhere else in the squad between, like, a player and their potential understudy.
Yeah, and if Marmoush is the understudy, he's going to AFCON.
Yeah,
so
that's true, yeah.
There's 6 weeks maybe where he's not going to be
play him anyway.
Available.
Which would probably include Carabao Cup semi-finals.
Yeah. Would it include the semi-finals? Probably would. They're in January, aren't they?
In January, I think, yeah.
But it would definitely include the FA Cup third round. Yeah. And it also overlaps one of, if not the busiest parts of the domestic season. Yeah. So that's going to be factored in. But it's not so much, I think Haaland will want to play. Obviously he wants to play. But in a team where you've got Rodri, who said, was it last season when he said, this is ridiculous, we can't be playing 60-odd games. I'm going on strike, but that is something that might come down the line. Yeah. You're going to end up with Haaland playing, like you say, 70 games. It's not so much this season. I guess it's the start of next season where will that all catch up with him, I guess. Yeah. But we're no medical experts to know, are we?
No, it's hard to know. And, you watch the day in the life YouTube video, like he clearly takes care of himself. He takes care of his body. He's very diligent on kind of nutrition and looking after himself. And I'm sure that plays a part in his fitness record. So
I just think City there's going to have to come a point where City go, right, this game, whoever that is, Wolves at home, have they played Wolves at home?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
Or whoever it is, right, it doesn't start that one because we can't keep going to the well with a player who's evidently so important and maybe gets, I don't know, what would Norway do in March now, play a couple of friendlies, I guess. So
yeah,
maybe he gets a pass on one of those.
But he got a pass on the New Zealand friendly, didn't he, in October? I guess the March ones now, they're kind of
more important
building to World Cup. They'll play 2 in June before the World Cup. Maybe there's a league game, like you say, Wolves at home, Sunderland at home, where you start Marmoush instead, but
it just feels like a risk, doesn't it? Saying it out loud feels like, well, why are you doing that?
I think we've always seen that Guardiola's very risk averse with his selections, isn't he? And when there's, like I say, when there's such a big drop off, I think that your better approach is almost to try and start taking him off.
Yeah, half time at 3-0 up.
Yeah, and like if it's 3-0 at half time or 3-0 after an hour, get him off and get some rest into him that way. But it is going to be, like I said, Guardiola kind of shot down the whole premise of my question again. And said,
was that before or after he called you an old man?
This was before. That was before the insults began. And I think he's probably right. His focus is going to be on City and winning trophies with City, but it does present a scenario where Haaland plays upwards of 70 games. And like you say, maybe we'll see that next year because it will kind of be a 12-month season. Like he played 250 odd minutes in the Club World Cup, had 3 weeks off. And strange thing is he had 3 weeks off and then came back and said he felt fresher than ever. Like he's kind of said, I came back to pre-season and felt really up for it. But again, he's going to have, the season's going to end. City could potentially reach the Champions League final. He's probably not getting any time off there before World Cup prep begins. Maybe a week. And then, it depends how far Norway
And then he's going halfway across the world into tough conditions heat-wise and with not the expectation of a nation, but certainly the will of a nation to lead Norway. I think it's a big ask. But then he's superhuman, so
he does seem superhuman.
Doesn't make any difference. And I bet at full time last night when he commiserated or shook the hands of Gianluigi Donnarumma will snap your hand off to be involved in 70 games if it means he's going to a World Cup with Italy. Because speaking of players who've never been to a World Cup that you mentioned earlier historically, somehow Donnarumma is one of those players, even though he plays for one of the most successful international sides ever.
Yeah.
They're in danger of missing a third straight World Cup. What's he now? 26?
26 now,
I know he's a keeper, so he's probably got 2, even 3 potential more World Cups to go. But Italy now in the playoffs, they don't have a great recent track record in the playoffs. They lost to North Macedonia.
And they blew the playoffs. I can't remember who it was, but they blew
Sweden,
the playoffs before that. It might have been Sweden. I think that was over 2 legs, wasn't it? So the March ones are over 1 leg. And I think they'd probably
Italy will be at home,
they'd be at home for both. But the fact it's only one game
for the second, I think it's potluck as whether you're at home for the final.
Right, okay.
But they will be at home for the
they'll be at home for the semi.
Yeah.
But the fact they're over 90 minutes,
and they also just lost 4-1 at home.
And they just lost 4-1 at home, and also lost 3-0 to Norway. Have sacked one manager, might sack another now with Gattuso. There's going to be so much angst in March, hasn't there? Not reached a World Cup since 2014. There's going to be so much pressure on those games. And it is... I never really thought about it in those terms until I wrote a piece the other week, and I was looking through it and I thought, Donnarumma hasn't actually played in a World Cup.
No.
Given
he's won a Euros.
He's won the Euros and was the best player probably
he's
in
won
the
a Champions
Euros.
League.
He's won a Champions League. Hasn't played in a World Cup. And if Italy blow it this time, it'll be 31 before he could possibly play in a World Cup. And he's on 78 caps now, so he'd have well over 100 caps by the time of the next World Cup, but somehow wouldn't have played in one.
Because is he captain?
Incredible. He's captain now,
So similar, I guess. He's going to have, that Italy team is not...
It's not great.
It's not a wash with... You couldn't rattle off that Italy team like maybe you could in the late 90s, early 2000s. He probably is the biggest name in that team. He's obviously playing for one of the biggest clubs in City. He's going to be contending for titles. He's suddenly going to feel that pressure. It'd be quite ironic if Donnarumma comes to City and then usurps James Trafford and therefore knocks James Trafford's chances of playing in a World Cup or going to a World Cup out of the equation. And then Donnarumma can't play in the World Cup either because Italy don't qualify.
Yeah, I mean, it would be incredible if they blow it again in the playoffs. But like you say, the pressure for them in that March break is going to be unbearable. And it's going to be, it's going to be a playoff game worth watching, isn't it? Just because of the fact it's Italy and what's on the line. But you're right, you look at the squad and it's like, I don't know who half of these players are. I don't know who half of them play for. It's clearly not a good generation. Donnarumma was pretty critical of them last night and came out. And I watched the first half and Italy dominated the first half, like all over Norway, really. Didn't create loads of chances, but had a few openings and were clearly the better team. And I missed most of the second half, but Donnarumma kind of said like they just played for one half and then tossed it off, basically.
Well, yeah, although when you're having to win 9-0, if you're not 3-0 up at half time.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Well, maybe they need the attitude of a child, because I was watching it with my 6-year-old son, and to him, 9-0 seems achievable. And like when Italy scored 1, he was like, I think they're going to do it. I was like, they're not going to do it. He's like, they might do it. I was like, they're not. It's not going to happen. But 9-0, like when you're 6, 9-0 seems achievable.
Yeah, it's probably happened a couple of times in the under-7s league.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So feels like it's doable. And I was trying to explain.
Haaland does treat teams like under-7s at times.
Exactly, yeah. It's like that. They're not going to do it. It's like, they've scored early. It's on. And like, my wife's in the room. He was like, Mummy, it's on. It's 1-0. I was like, they're not going to do it. But maybe that's the attitude they needed. But yeah, when it's 1-0 at half time, they're clearly not going to do it. I mean, they were clearly never going to do it, were they? But no. It's kind of it's a confidence thing, isn't it? If they'd won that game 1-0, at least you then go into the March break. And I know it's 5 months away, but at least you go in with like, right, we've beaten a good Norway team. Good result for Gattuso. Instead, you've nearly drawn with Moldova. Like it was 0-0 after 88 minutes against Moldova on Thursday.
Was it really?
Yeah, they won 2-0 in the end, but they were 2 minutes away from drawing away at Moldova. And I think the players in Gattuso got booed at the end. And then you lose 4-1 at home to Norway. And I like 3 goals in the last 10 minutes when heads have probably dropped. But it's another demoralising result, isn't it? And like I say, maybe it leads to Gattuso getting the boot now when you have a third manager for this campaign. Like it feels like there's going to be so much pressure on them in March. And as captain, probably a lot of pressure on Donnarumma as well.
Yeah. Although he's going to be used to that in the same way that Haaland is used to that. And
he is going to be used to that, yeah.
On the flip side, it's one of those, isn't it? We've just said, Haaland will come back with a spring in his step and maybe even kick on to another supersonic level. Donnarumma is now coming back and he's going to go straight into Newcastle away, Champions League game, another Premier League game, 2 games a week until February or whenever it is now. He's got plenty of time to get over that disappointment by turning disappointment into positives with City. So
yeah, he has. And, there's probably not loads of disappointment there. I mean, they wouldn't have expected the start of this camp to qualify. Like you say, it's more the way it's ended for them, more the fact they've had another thrashing at the hands of Norway and morale is now super low. Like we say, I think we said last week that Norway were always going to do the job in this international window just because of the fact they were playing Estonia at home first, and even though that was 0-0 at half time, they scored 4 goals in 10 minutes in the second half just to completely end it. So, but yeah, the fact that it's been such a morale sapping break, I guess, for Italy in both games, really, like nearly drawing in Moldova and then losing to Norway in pretty embarrassing circumstances that's going to be painful for him.
But he's not got injured. Haaland's not got injured. I don't think any City players have picked up any.
No, touch wood, because there'll be some more to play.
There will,
but I don't think
in a way that Gabriel has got injured for Brazil.
That's true.
I don't know how
at
serious.
the Emirates, I think, wasn't it?
Was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Emirates, yeah.
And they're playing. He's not playing now, Gabriel. But that'll be as much as Pep Guardiola will be delighted that Erling Haaland is going to a World Cup, and that however many other City players have booked their path to a World Cup or will book their path to a World Cup. He will be even more delighted if everyone who went away on international duty comes back 100% fit for what is a pretty defining period of the season.
Massively, yeah. I mean, that's. I guess that's what every club manager wants, isn't it? When players go away on international duty, just come back fit. And we don't know the extent of Gabriel's injury. I think it was a groin injury he went off with, isn't he? But I mean, Arsenal potentially losing their best centre-back and their best attacking weapon if he's unavailable.
Yeah.
Having just had like a shaky draw at Sunderland, I guess. And they've got injuries up front. They've got injuries in attack anyway, haven't they, Arsenal? Like, they are short of players, I think, at the moment. So it's a potential door-opening moment, isn't it, if Gabriel's out for a few weeks.
And I think City play, well, they do play, I don't think, I know, that City play first. The next 3 Premier League game weeks, City are playing ahead of Arsenal.
Oh, okay.
So there is an opportunity there for City. I know it's Newcastle away, but there's an opportunity for City to cut that gap to a point. I think Arsenal are then playing the North London derby as their first game back.
Feels early to be going into like the psychological drama of who's playing first.
But that's, I don't know, I just feel like that is, maybe that's just the international break and I'm trying to steer it to some sort of City club level.
It does feel early to be saying like they've got the advantage because they play first when there's still 27 games to go.
Oh yeah.
But it is relevant, I guess, in the sense that it feels like Arsenal are going to, at some point, perhaps panic. And I mean, if they're panicking now, they're obviously in a lot of trouble. But every chance that City can get to put the pressure on them, I guess, is worthwhile doing, isn't it? Even if it only helps to crank up the pressure further down the line. Like I guess if City win that game, City win at Newcastle and Arsenal draw, it just...
City could be top then before Arsenal play again.
Yeah,
I guess is my point.
Cranks up the intensity and the pressure on Arsenal a little bit more, doesn't it? And I think everyone feels like that is... Like Arsenal, I was surprised to see Arsenal are still odds on to win the league, to be honest. And I think I can see why, because I think they've been the best team in the league so far. But I was a bit surprised to see they were odds on still. And I think it feels in a way at the moment like a title race that Arsenal are going to lose more than City are going to win.
Maybe, yeah. And Arsenal are actually I think they're a point further ahead of City at the October international break. Sorry, not October, November, than they were in October. The gap has actually grown between Arsenal and City. It doesn't feel like that.
No. Well, like you look at City's progression, and I said this, I think with Sai on the first podcast we did in the international break, they were 13th in September, 5th in October, and 2nd in November. So that kind of shows where City are going. But yeah, I think the narrative has been that it's going to be pressure on Arsenal. And of course, City could win every game between now and the end of the season, and that would win the title. But I think we've probably seen enough from City to know that they're not... This isn't a City team that are going to go on a 15-game winning streak. We kind of saw that with Villa, I think. The Villa game, didn't we? That as good as they're playing, they're probably going to have games where it doesn't click, it doesn't work for whatever reason. So, I don't think they're going to be a City team who gets 95 plus points, which is probably why I think more people feel like it's a title that Arsenal could lose.
Yeah.
Or maybe the most likely route to City winning it is that Arsenal lose it. Basically, City will play a part in that because they'll put the pressure on Arsenal to kind of make them fall away. But that kind of feels like the narrative, doesn't it? That Arsenal are going to have to show they've got the mettle to be champions.
I think, you just said it was too early to go for the psychology, and 5 minutes later, you've talked yourself into Arsenal throwing the title away.
Yeah, maybe that's a good time to call it quits.
But yeah, we will pick it up again before the return of the Premier League and Newcastle on Saturday evening. So just left to say thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we will see you soon.